Stop forming hard girl. Stop forming hard girl. Communicate your feelings. You're not an island on your own. Relax and let yourself be pampered. It's not every time you should be doing hard girl, hard girl, hard girl. I can do it all. I can do it all. Be vulnerable. Communicate your feelings. Let him know or let her know how you feel. Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time tuning into my channel, or if this is your first time seeing my face, my name is God's Desire, and here we discuss about faith, lifestyle, real life matters, and opinion videos. So please do well to click on the subscribe button below, and beside that you see a notification bell. Please make sure you hit on it so you get notified anytime I drop a content on this channel, right? Yeah, so in today's video I'm going to be sharing things that I wish I knew before I started dating, or things I wish I knew before I got into the dating phase, right? Although most of the points that I have here is not really like there were things that I experienced. When I get to the point where it's something that I'm actually guilty of, or something that I've experienced, something I wish I knew before dabbling into relationship, then I'm going to of course let you know. And then the remaining points are just general things that people often make mistake of before they get into relationship, right? I hope that makes sense. Yeah, so yeah, with that being said, let's get straight into the video. Yeah, so the first thing, actually, I wish that I had waited, right? I wish I had waited before I started dating. If you're very conversant with this channel and you're conversant with my content of this channel, my last two or three videos actually talks about one of my relationships that I had in secondary school, which means that apparently I've been dating since I was in secondary school. So somehow I wish that I had waited before I started dating, right? Disclaimer, not that there is any major regrets or something like that, not that there's anything that the early relationships has cost per se, early secondary relationship has cost, no, or that probably it made me fail exams, it didn't make me focus, it made me get delayed. No, there's no huge regret per se, but just like my personal convention, like I wish I had waited, right? I wish I had waited a bit before I dabbled into dating, because looking back now, secondary relationship, what is the gain, right? I mean, if you are going into a relationship, if you're dating, you and your partner have to be people that are intentional about what you're doing, right? But then I started dating in secondary school. What is it now? Some of them I don't even talk to them anymore. So I wish I had waited, personally on my own ground. I wish that I had waited before I started dating. Second point, I'm going to talk about communication. See, communication is one thing that I wish I knew, or I learned, or I had before I dabbled into relationship. I wouldn't even lie to myself. It's something that I'm still learning now. I'm still learning it. It's not like I have it all now. Talking about things, I don't know if I've mentioned, I've mentioned on this channel before though. I think my get to know me, I mentioned I'm an introvert, so some things that I ought to talk about, even when it hurts, I would rather keep quiet about it and let it slide, and that is toxic. I feel like that is toxic. I'm still learning how to be more open, how to be more vocal, how to communicate my feelings. The person, like my partner, is not a witch, he's not a wizard, right? So there's some things that I just have to communicate, and communicating, talking about difficult issues. I'm just this kind of person. I'm like, I don't want trouble. I don't want trouble is what we just keep making me keep quiet about some things that I ought to talk about, right? So communication is still something that I'm learning, and it's something I wish I had known, or I had learned, or something that I just had naturally before I dabbled into relationship, right? So the third one is continuous learning. Well, I'm also not guilty of this, because it's one thing that I've always heard from my mom. She would always say it. You can't know a man, you cannot know your partner, like you cannot know a person that you are dating or you are married to. You can't know them finish. Let me use that Nigerian English. You cannot know them finish. You cannot finish knowing them, right? So it takes constant learning. You will keep on, like, every day new things keep unfolding about that particular person. So it's something I've always known before I got into relationships, so that doesn't have to do with me. I'm just stating it here that before you get into a relationship, you should know that there's space and there's room for continuous learning. You cannot finish knowing that person. Is a lie. It's a lie. Oh, I know him. But it is good to, at least to an extent, know your partner. There are like basic things that you ought to know about your partner, that even in your subconsciousness you know that no, my partner can do this or my partner cannot do this, but that doesn't mean that you cannot then finish. It's not possible. So there's space and there's room for continuous learning when you're in a relationship. So before you get into a relationship, have that mindset that there's continuous learning. You cannot finish knowing that person, right? The next point is vulnerability. I'm guilty of this. Now when I talk about being vulnerable, it doesn't mean being vulnerable in the negative way or being vulnerable by stressing out the other person or weighing the other person out, right? Yes, but the vulnerability I'm talking about in this context is stop forming hard girl. Stop forming hard girl. That's something I see. Most of this that I'm saying is not like, okay, fine, I've realized, and that's like the good thing, right? They say if you know that you're guilty of something, then definitely there's room for change, right? Doesn't mean that I've already changed. I'm still guilty of it. It's something that I'm still learning, right? Yes. So vulnerability, it's still, I feel like it still boils down to communication as well. Like I wouldn't let you know my feeling. I wouldn't let you know how I feel. I'd rather bottle it up. I do not like being vulnerable. Hard girl. This is for you to know that sometimes, like, you just have to be vulnerable. You have to be vulnerable. Communicate your feelings. Communicate your feelings. You're not an island on your own. Be vulnerable. Communicate your feeling. Like, relax and let yourself be pampered. It's not every time you should be doing hard girl. I can do it all. Be vulnerable. Communicate your feelings. Let him know or let her know how you feel. And I feel like this should actually mainly be communicated to the men. The men most times do not want to be vulnerable. I'm not saying that you should let your ego or let it, because no. Okay, let me be practical. I cannot be dating you now and every time you're always like saying, like, always like wanting to lean on me. One day I'll freak out and tell you, you're a man, hold yourself, right? But then at the same time, there are just some things that shouldn't be counted. You should let go of some things. Let go of some feelings. Let me know how you feel. Be vulnerable when you're with me sometimes, right? Yes. So you should also be passed to the men. Be vulnerable. But now, for me, it's something that has happened to me. I'm trying to change. At the same time, I wish that I had known something about vulnerability before I dabbled into relationship or I started dating, right? That just sometimes that you have to communicate your feelings and you have to be vulnerable, relax and be taken care of, right? All this hard girl. It's not every time. It's not every time, right? And so the last point, I'm going to be talking about gender differences and personality differences. I'm also guilty. I wish I had known before I started dating that, okay, there's room and there's space for gender differences and personality differences. I don't expect everybody to be like me, right? The fact that we actually grew up with different parents, grew up from different backgrounds, probably you're even dating somebody that you're not from same ethnical background, right? So I mean, there's room and there's space for personality differences and gender differences. There are some ways that I'm going to react as a woman or as a lady that I don't expect it to come freely for a man like that. There's just difference because we are genderly different. So we should accept that gender differences before you get into a relationship. Be prepared for that gender differences. That there are some things that you are expected to do as a female, or you might expect your spouse, sorry, it's not a marriage talk right now. Like, who am I to talk about marriage? Your partner. Let me not use the word spouse. I feel like spouse is used, or is better used for married people. So there's some things that you expect from your partner that, like, as a woman, that's just the way you're thinking. You expect him to do something this particular way, but then he wouldn't do it because why? He's a man. So accept the gender differences and personality differences as well. Me, I'm an introvert, so if perhaps or peradventure I'm dating somebody who is an extrovert, accept him for who he is. Don't try to make him don't try to curb him to your introvert life, and at the same time, if it's the other way around, please don't try to like cover into your extrovert life. So as an introvert, I seldom speak, I seldom talk, so I shouldn't automatically expect that he would know what is on my mind if I don't speak, especially if he's an extrovert and he believes in speaking out your feelings and speaking out your mind. So for him, if you don't talk, that means there's nothing wrong with you. But you as an introvert, if you don't want to talk, right, so you expect that if I don't talk, you ought to have known. That's our problem with that. So try to know his own personality or her own personality, your partner's personality. Understand your differences, right? Yes, and that will be it. Understand your differences, your gender differences and your personality differences before you go into a relationship. These are things that you ought to know, or things that you should have at the back of your mind before you dabble into relationships. So yeah, with that, I've come to the end of the video, and I hope it was helpful and educative, most importantly, because I don't want to be sharing content that you wouldn't have, that wouldn't have an impact on people, or you wouldn't have something to learn from it. So I hope it was impactful, I hope it was knowledgeable, and I hope you learned something from it. This are some of the mistakes that I made before I started dating, but we are learning. There's always room for learning, unlearning, and relearning, right? Yes. Yep. So with that, I'll see you in my next video. Please do not forget to click on the subscribe button before you leave. Thank you for waiting to the end of the video. If you did watch to the end, I so much appreciate to my new subscribers, like, thank you. This family is expanding and I'm so grateful for that. I do not take it for granted. Yeah, make sure you give this video a thumbs up, share my video, click on the subscribe button, click on the notification bell as well, so you do get notified anytime I upload a content on this channel. And with that being said, I'll see you in my next video. Have a nice time. Bye.